Hello, Crypto Invest Summit. I love being in LA, and I also really love when they use our colors. I'm very excited about being here. Today, I would love to chat with you about decentralization, which is a word I'm sure you've heard used a lot here at the conference and through the last year. Decentralization is the new Uber of X. It's the decentralized X. But more about decentralization as a philosophy than decentralization being a goal. I want to talk about decentralization related to us, the humans, and how it makes sense for your sovereignty. So I want to just start with a disclaimer. I think everybody should always start with a disclaimer when you work in the blockchain space. And for all of the lawyers and accountants sitting in the room and our lovely SEC lawyer that we had here today, I think that disclaimers are a good thing. And more than anything, I would say that my presentation is not a security. And I would also like everyone to really think thoughtfully about when you see disclaimers and when you are purchasing tokens in a token sale. You might want to reframe the words that you're using, like the word investor, and think of yourself as a token buyer until securities are a reality. And just think about all of the things that are put right in front of those terms. And this is just a public service announcement because I think it's our right to be able to have the right to choose and to be able to know exactly what we're getting ourselves into. So without further ado, we're getting ourselves into self-sovereignty today. And what is self-sovereignty? So this is something that I think is another really amazing word, and this is one I want to set the stage for coming forward for the next year. Because decentralization came around, and now self-sovereignty is a new concept that has been something that we all have had a right to. So thinking about the concept of your own property being yourself. I am a sovereign being. I have the right to my own physical self. I have the right to my own moral compass, and I have the integrity to have freedom and all of the basic fundamental rights that we enjoy so much in this country and in the world, what we're fighting for. And if we think about sovereignty and we think about our fundamental rights and we think about the digital world that we live in today, we could actually think about how this translates. Information is our new ownership. Data is the thing that we actually have as part of our value system now. Our brains and our minds and the things we think are actually now translating into a physical form, which is data. So I think that this is really important because we're becoming our own banks with blockchain. We're having access to financial services that we've never had before. And finally, sovereignty is going to come to the people who are underbanked, the 3 billion people in the planet who don't have access to these basic fundamental services that we have access to. We're all going to have the right to be our own everything, fill in the blank. We have the right to be our own hotel with Airbnb. We have the right to be our own car service, and we've already been able to experience this for years. And now we have the right to be our own, literally everything else, identity and bank. So I would like to talk to you about your value. And this is something that in the history of our company with Sense, we have always said our fundamental core is every human is valuable. Every single person has intrinsically something within them that they can share and contribute to the world. And so your value has now been translated into the digital sphere. All of the value that you provide into the world has somehow transpired its way into your digital life. We all have something in our world that we're contributing digitally, whether that's content that we're creating or something that we're writing, or even if we're contributing by giving thumbs up on somebody else's contributions to the world. And certainly we have a price value on that data and on what you own. So this is a little bit of information that gets stored on you, and I want to tell you just a quick story about a friend of mine, Tim, who was in the hospital, and Tim is on Facebook, but typically you don't really generally put yourself in the hospital on Facebook if it's something embarrassing especially, but some people do. But Tim uses Facebook just like most of us do, throwing up pictures and communicating with friends and family, but in this instance it was a pretty embarrassing trip to the hospital for him. And so Facebook knows his location. It knows he's at the hospital, but no one else does because he didn't post it overtly. He also uses WhatsApp, and WhatsApp has all of his contacts, just like LinkedIn. And inside of those contacts are an addiction specialist and a counselor because Tim has a drug problem and unfortunately he had an overdose. Now, those two things separately are not really bad bits of data for those two platforms to understand. But if you put them together, when entities buy both of those data sets, that data set can be understood in a lot more depth. AI can determine that maybe he was there for that reason. So big data knows more about Tim than his mom does, and more than everyone except for maybe his closest friends who he confided in and told us. And the only reason I bring this up is because it's important to think about where all of those bits of information go. So if you think about your entire data life like a pillow that has basically been like in a pillow fight and you've just smashed the feathers everywhere. There's feathers all over the room. They're everywhere. They just start blowing around the world and you lose track of them. You don't even realize. But if you put them back together in aggregate, then it becomes a very valuable data set for someone who might want to check your credit score or determine whether or not you should have insurance or determine whether or not you're worthy to have something that they're providing, or even profile you and start targeting you for products and ads. And we don't really think too much about the marketing aspect, but we have to start thinking about the deeper side of it. So this is just a bit of the data that is found on you. And Facebook and all of the other major players are selling these bits of data, these little bits, to all be aggregated by bigger players that we don't even know about. So it's kind of a crazy business, right? Data brokers are trading on our privacy. And this is the biggest business, one of the biggest businesses in the world. Advertising is the fundamental profit driver for the internet. Google, Facebook, the largest incumbent industries in the world are still making money primarily on advertising. And mostly the advertising is being facilitated by your data. And that's the stuff you own. So why are you not getting value for that? If you saw last year when we started in 2017 on this mission to give everyone back their data privacy and value, we wanted everyone to have value for what they had contributed. And so our first mission, if you read the first white paper for Sense when we came out in late 2017, we said we want to give you the value back. And so what we're going to do is we're going to connect the user directly to the advertisers through the blockchain so that your data belongs to you. We're going to call it knowledge attribution, and you're going to be able to sell that data directly to them. What we discovered after partnering with Nike and a couple of other amazing companies from our wonderful advisors at RGA was that in aggregate, that data is worth a lot more. Those little bits individually are not worth that much. So generally, we've actually done a market research study. People think their data is worth a lot more than it is. I am sorry to tell you, but your monthly value of your data on Facebook is only about $4 to $12, not the $100 or $1,000 or so dollars that you think. And so that's not really meaningful money for somebody to spend a lot of time chatting with these advertisers or taking the images. So we just trade our privacy for the value of using the services and let them target us for ads. It's not a big deal. So I'm going to show a couple of apps. These are the top non-gaming apps on the planet downloaded today. And I'm guessing that everyone probably has one of these on their phone, if not all of them. And these are the numbers individually that these apps have in terms of downloads. And so if you notice something, I've left number 5 blank because Facebook, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and Instagram all belong to one company. They belong to Facebook. And these are the permissions that you give. Facebook asks for all of these permissions, and if you have only accepted the terms and not concluded what you wanted to give them yourself, they have the ability to read your SMS, they have the ability to view your location. None of these things seem to be a big deal, actually. Keeping your microphone on because you're like, well, I want to use the service. But sometimes this doesn't make as much sense. This is just what that screen looks like. I wanted to show you the permissions you give, and you do have the right to turn these off, but then you lose the right to use the service. And if you've ever had a conversation on Facebook like I did the other day with my girlfriends who sent a link of a product that was so particular and private that I wouldn't have ever imagined that anybody would know, and then they retargeted me for an ad 2 days later on Instagram. So this is not to pick on Facebook, by the way. Facebook just happens to be the largest of this institution. There is another app, there are many, that take these same permissions. One of them has 100 million downloads, and it's actually an antivirus software. So when you are downloading these things that are supposed to protect you, they might actually be aggregating your data because their business model is not giving you free software. It's actually selling your data by tracking you. Oops. We are almost 8 billion humans. There's a lot of us in this room. And 4 billion of us are internet users. That means that more than half the world has the internet, finally. We've been on this mission, and how exciting, because for 20 years or more now, 2 decades, we've been working to give people a basic fundamental access to internet as if it's the base of the Maslow pyramid, which now it is. It's amazing. And of those, 5 billion of them more now are mobile users. And last year, this number was about 4% less. And of those, 3.5 or 3.2 of those are social media users. That means 40%-ish of, 42 actually, 42 is the number of the meaning of life. 42% of those, the people who know what I'm talking about are laughing, I like it. The people who are using social media are almost half of the penetration. I mean, this is a pretty big deal. That's the world penetration. Almost half of us use social media, which means half of us are giving away our data. And of those, 2.5 billion are on a Facebook product. Not Facebook itself, but all of those 4 things that you just saw. 2.5 billion people, 33%, a third of the world is giving away their data. And finally, I wanted to actually highlight this one because I think it's really relevant. We are here at Crypto Invest Summit, and so we clearly have a passion for crypto. And what's interesting is that even as of last year, we were still looking at these numbers. I just had a conversation about this recently with Alex Lightman. We were talking about Cambridge and MIT releasing these studies. The number is about 50 million total users, which could even be estimated a little bit high, and that's still less than 1% of penetration. But the interesting thing is cryptocurrency only represents the first application on the blockchain. And it's the first step for us to create the digital self-sovereignty that we're looking for to step away from this model of one individual, one centralized organization owning everything. This is our right and our first step to being free. So what is centralization? Centralization is what we just saw. Centralization is when one organization or entity, one authority, owns the right to everything. And so Facebook is taking everything. Now, it's not all on the same server, so they might say, like, well, we're distributed or we're decentralized because we have farms of servers. It has nothing to do with where the data is. It's actually more about the authority that controls the data. And if you want to look at a decentralized model, it's about having a distribution across many different access points. And again, it's not necessarily just servers and devices, which now we do have the right to have. Now each thing can be a node on a network, but it has to do with where that data is stored by who owns it. So we want to talk about decentralized as the way to take back your privacy. Decentralizing things is a good way to do that. Now, decentralization sometimes comes along with the connotation of anarchy, kind of like blockchain or Bitcoin comes along with some of the dark web. And so we have to think about decentralization not as a way to remove governance and authority, but actually just a way for us to distribute the power and create better systems of governance and better systems of consensus so that we can be in control. So I do want to show you what we're working on now, which is an app that lets you put that control back into your own hands. This is Sense Chat, and this is the evolution of what we have been working on to give everyone back their power, give everyone back their privacy and their self-sovereignty. And it's really a very basic idea. So Sense Chat allows you to privately talk to anyone, just like we're having a conversation now, except for all of the cameras in the room that are spying on us. Nobody's spying on you. Nobody's taking your data. There are 0 servers in between. If we ever do have to have a relay server because there's a firewall, we'll let you know. But don't worry, that's only going to happen if you're talking to China. And by the way, China is the only place that's not using those Facebook apps that we saw. They're using something else. They're using WeChat and others. We can talk about that in an international conversation. I do appreciate and love the fact that we can be a global economy, and I think it's really important that we're now trading and transacting globally frictionlessly, and this is what we need to do. No more borders, no more walls, no more firewalls, no more censorship. Stop watching our data. So just like Bitcoin allowed you to turn digital money into cash, I now have the right to send my friend money, just like I could if we were in person, peer-to-peer, nobody in between, no middleman, and the only fees are because we have miners. And don't worry, we've fixed proof of work with proof of stake. You guys just saw an EOS talk, and please look at what delegated proof of stake is, because that's changing the model. No more fees, and we have no more fees either. So very basic, we just want you to be able to connect together and have a conversation, just like what Bitcoin did for digital money, we're doing for digital chat. Sense.chat, you can download the beta at Sense Chat and take back your privacy. And just in closing, privacy, we think, is something that's not about something that you need to hide. It's something that you have the right to protect. It's something that you have the right to share. It's something that you have the right to choose to do what you want with. Even in the world of privacy, we call our privates something to hide. I want to make my privates private. So we want to make your choice of what you share with who you want at any time. It's all about you. This is the EOS DApp ecosystem. I'll just go through this. I'll go past this one because we've seen the EOS world, but this is just to say decentralized applications are on the rise. 2019 will be the year of the DApp. And I'd love for everyone to come and make sense. So we have a booth, and our amazing team is all here. We'd love to bring you on board to the beta of this. We have 35,000 users who've already signed up. This is amazing for a crypto product. We're also giving away some things to help you take back your privacy as well. So come win a ledger, and you can even win a crypto kitty. Please come and make sense with us. Thank you.